region there was a /8 available for sale, the UK Department of Pensions, and they publicly announced that they're selling parts of it, and they publicly announced also the price. On the other side, there's the Danish education institution. They've publicly announced what's the minimum they would accept for a bid. Now, that doesn't mean that that was the price, because for the first auction, they've asked for a minimum of 525, while for the second auction, they've already asked for a minimum of €7. Both prices are in euros. So I assume that they've received so many offers of 525 that they had to, for the second auction, raise the price. It doesn't mean that those IP addresses were sold at 7, or the ones in the next auction will be sold at 7. They will sell it to the highest bidder. It just shows that some of the price, some info. It shows some info.
What's a floor under it anyway? Okay, very good. Yes?
Yes. Okay. Hisham Ibrahim, Ripe NCC. Sorry for the voice. I have a question for you. You were talking about legacy space showing up now, being transferred and showing up. And I work for an RIR, regional registry, and one of the main key functions that we do is we keep those records up to date, as you mentioned. Now, I'm a bit concerned with, and the techie in me can easily find out that legacy space that is now being transferred, the numbers that Jeff was talking about, because you can easily look up on the routing tables what's being advertised now recently that hasn't been there, and kind of map that out. But I'm also worried from the other perspective, which is if that amount, the number that you said Jeff mentioned, is being transferred that are not really properly documented on those databases, then we're creating a very weird internet where me as an ISP, I don't know whether to trust this space, whether it's hijacked, whether it's not. So can you tell us, how do you think, especially that you're talking now about a lot of North American legacy space that may flood the market, that would in a way bring down the prices, but would also mess up with a lot of things on the internet. So I'd like your take on that.
All right. Well, let me worry you more.
Okay, go ahead.
At the APNIC meeting, Hilco announced, and it's their presentation is public. Hilco announced that about 90% of the address space they broker is done through futures contracts. So 90% of the address space brokered by one of the top 5 brokers in the world is not recorded in the registry. We're talking about 90% of tens of millions of IP addresses. It's a lot. What Jeff was noticing are transfers of IP addresses to organizations that have already started using the IP addresses. However, what we also notice and see, we don't really do future contracts. We've been invited in a handful. We've tried to be as transparent as possible, and we've tried to do everything by the book as much as possible. Of course, again, that means that we're refusing money, but we're trying to keep some kind of a reputation. Now, what happens is, Jeff is talking about 14 million IP addresses, but that's just a handful of IP addresses compared to what was already done in futures contracts in the US and does not show up in the routing table. Basically, tens of millions of IP addresses are estimated to have been transferred financially and in internal books of companies, but not in the registries. And that's what actually worries me most, and should worry you as well. I had a couple of interesting discussions on the hallway today, and I think that the most important thing is, right now the market works, and in the RIBE region it works very well. However, we have 2 things that I think we should fix. we should still fix. One of